It's now 5 o'clock, so I'll welcome everybody to this City Planning Committee meeting for Monday the 3rd of October. I'd like to do an acknowledgement first. So in recognition of the deep history and culture of this place, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which the City of Hobart was built. I acknowledge the determination and resilience of the Palawa people of Tasmania, Latruwita, who have survived invasion and dispossession and who continue to maintain and strengthen their identity, culture and rights. I recognise the value of continuing Aboriginal knowledge and cultural practice and pay my respects to elders past and present. So welcome everybody, and just a reminder that this is being live streamed, and if you can turn your phones to silent, please. So we have the committee members, Alderman Briscoe, Councillor Harvey, Alderman Barakis and Councillor Dutta. Have we any apologies? No, and no co-options. Can I have somebody confirm the minutes, please? Councillor Dutta, thank you. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll put that. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Item is carried. Consideration of supplementary items. We have none. Item 4 is indication of pecuniary and conflicts of interests. Any conflicts? No. Item 5, transfer of agenda items. None to transfer. Item 6, planning authority items, considerations of items with deputations. Councillor Harvey, thank you. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. Item 7, where committee is acting as a planning authority, and we'll go to 7.2.4, which is 374 Murray Street, North Hobart. It's an application for extension of operating hours. And I'll ask Ms Anna Zarb to come to the table, please. So if you'd like to come to the table where there's a microphone. Thanks, Anna. Just that table there, yep. And take a seat, please. Thank you. And just bring the microphone towards you if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, thank you. You have 5 minutes to address your concerns to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me the deputation. My name's Anna. I live at 97 Burnett Street, which is diagonally across from 374 Murray Street, North Hobart, where I live with my family. I don't support the request for extension of opening hours and request they be considered under the following reasons: for increased noise and difficulty for residents sleeping, and parking. And I know that parking isn't addressed here, but it is all a factor in. I think it's vitally important for residents to have times of uninterrupted sleep on normal work nights, those being Sunday to Thursday. And I'd like to highlight other businesses in residential areas and their opening hours within the City of Hobart and North Hobart. Amici, T-Bone, Smolt and Paisanos. None of these businesses from a Sunday to a Thursday night are allowed to open past 10 p.m. I'd also like to identify that as a resident, according to the council guidelines, that I wouldn't be able to play amplified music in my own home past 10 p.m. on a Sunday to Thursday night. So what's worrying me about the application is that already on the 11th of the night there was a situation where there was a function at the 374 Murray Street where the noise was clearly heard in our bedroom. It was very loud and rowdy on the street, and at 11:40 p.m. on a Sunday night I rang the police. I wasn't the only one. There were 3 police cars that rocked up that night, and the noise continued past midnight when the police arrived. I'm worried about the impacts of increased noises outside of the restaurant, and this impacting residents' ability to sleep, maintain work, and ensure safe work the next day, because many of the street are still working. And I know for myself that waking up and getting ready to be a nurse at 7 a.m, I want to have my head clear and be able to think properly. Also consider not just the noise from inside the restaurant, but the impacts of when people leave the businesses. And we've all had it where we've been at a function and we've left and we've said long, lengthy goodbyes, waiting for taxis and Ubers. It's very, very loud. We are in a heritage listed area and the heritage buildings aren't all that soundproof and very costly to maintain those sort of adaptations. Some actually wouldn't be allowed to be put on the heritage houses. The parking, if I can mention it, I have written to the City of Hobart about the parking to that section, but I haven't heard of any possible changes there. The present parking limit is 2-hour parking, 9 till 5 with resident parking permit. The business actually operates outside of these hours, and if they were to open every single night, this would make it near impossible to do shopping and things and still get back to the car, to the home. Many times if you do take your car out, when 374 or OG is open, you can't actually park, and so you could have shopping, children, aged parents, and you have to park quite a way away. So I have written to the City of Hobart, but I haven't heard back about whether they'll do consideration for changing the permits of the parking, the time permits. I understand that with the application, the business owner stated he had no intention of opening every day, but he has applied for being able to possibly open these hours. And this would lead to periods of times where during the holiday periods, during Christmas, you are going to have that constant noise, that constant issues of being kept awake at night, which is impacting your next day, mainly Christmas, New Year's, and festival times. I believe that this can cause ongoing sleep deprivation. It's not really fair for residents, and I think that's already been shown on the 11th of the night. The function did cause quite a lot of trouble for the street. I would ask that you consider the residents in this situation and that make the business hours reflect the other businesses that are in residential areas as well.
Okay, thank you. And I'll open it to the committee to ask you questions, and welcome Councillor Coates as well. Are there any questions? Councillor Coates?
Just not wanting to stray too far off the application, but when you say you wrote to council and haven't heard a response as yet for parking, I mean, is that just because this application was up, you wrote last week, or?
Can you say that last bit again? I didn't hear you.
Oh, obviously this was up tonight, so I'm just checking that it wasn't only recently written to them, as in
on the 13th of the 9th, I wrote to them.
So many weeks ago, and have yet to hear any response at all.
That's right.
Okay.
Further questions? Councillor Data?
Thank you very much, Chair. Just a question with regards to parking. So prior to the 13th, you had no problems with noise. So that was the only incident.
On the 11th?
On the 11th, sorry.
Yes, the restaurant hadn't opened yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So, what was the previous owner, or the previous use was a restaurant?
It was. Yeah.
Can you just describe if there were any problems that you had with that as well?
It was the Appetit was the name, and before that it was Fondues. That was occasionally, and that was during their function period of Christmas. Yes.
Okay, and before that it was
Curtain shop.
right. It was haberdasher curtains. Yes. Okay, and so that was as it was a corner shop, essentially. Yeah. Okay. All right. And so what particular hours would you like to see? I mean, what do you think is reasonable given the request?
Oh, so Sunday night till, Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday till 10 p.m. and then Friday, Saturday till midnight, which seems to be the same as the other businesses.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right, if there are no further questions, thank you. If you'd like to...
So can I just check? So you went, sorry, through your chair, you did go around to all those other businesses and you checked the times that they've been open, so you're accurate,
I
you think?
contacted the council and I said what were their approved times of opening. Yes.
Okay, so that's council information, yep.
Yes, so it's not their opening hours per se, these are the hours that they're allowed to open to.
Yeah, that's what I meant,
Some
yeah.
places don't reflect those times, so no, I found out what time they were approved to see what was reasonable within a residential area.
Yep, and you've got a list of premises that were open till 10 o'clock rather than 12 o'clock.
Yes, I've got an email here if you want it.
Yeah, that'd be handy, yep.
Can I... I'll get Mr Banks to show... If that's all the questions. Thank you. All right, and I'll ask the applicant, Mr Matthew Breen, to come forward. So you've heard the concerns raised, and perhaps you can answer some of those and whether there's any sort of compromise you can suggest.
Yeah, of course. Well, good evening, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to just apologise for the noise on the 11th. That was our soft launch party to celebrate finally opening the business. And I'll admit that we took it a little bit too far with the noise, got a bit carried away. We've been open for 3 weeks now, strictly operating in the hours that we've been given, that were handed down for us from the previous tenants. And I don't think we've been pushing the limits with that at all, and we haven't been creating much noise in that period. I put the application forward because I wanted to have the flexibility to be able to open our business any night of the week that we choose. If we choose to take a small booking or a function on a Tuesday night, we'd like to have that flexibility. We don't have plans to open any more than 4 days a week currently, as it's not sustainable for my life to work any more than 4 full days. A couple of the days we wanted to push back to be able to open for lunch as well, because the current hours are 5 o'clock starting time for a couple of the days there. I'm happy to retract that now. And I know that I've negotiated with someone at the council as to what hours they would like to see. That has pushed back a couple of our days back to 10 o'clock as opposed to 11 o'clock. I would like to propose that we keep, and I've written you all an email, it's come through my partner's email address, ML Snapbanges. I'd just like to propose that we keep the current operating hours the same, but add on a Monday and a Tuesday, starting from 5 p.m. till 11, if that's possible. That would, we wouldn't be open for lunches in that case, and like I said before, it's just to give us the flexibility to be able to open on any given day if we choose, as we're paying rent and need to be able to provide for our staff and my family. So the parking, I don't see that as being an issue. I feel that we get people that come to us that walk and catch Ubers. We don't encourage people to drive to a restaurant like ours and drink a couple of bottles of wine and drive home, obviously. So the parking in that area is notoriously bad. I struggle myself to get a car spot, and I do notice tradesmen parking there early in the morning, 6 a.m. they'll arrive, and then they'll be out of there 5 p.m. They park in the free spots. They're tradesmen that are working on a construction site down the road. So I would like to just argue that the case that I don't think that parking is going to be an issue, as people Uber. Sunny, my other wine bar, my wine bar has just won national accolade of Wine Bar of the Year in Australia. And previously to that, I owned Templo, which also won a lot of accolades. We focus on a really high quality product, and we get a lot of people in from the mainland who get to come and enjoy that. And I think that the extra hours of the evening up to 11 o'clock are really important for us, as a lot of diners that come in are coming in to dine at 9 p.m. and don't want to have to leave at 10 o'clock on the dot. We're a quiet jazz style venue. We keep things at a low level. We're not a rowdy pub or wine bar or anything like that. So I just don't think noise is going to be an issue late at night for us, I hope, anyway. So people that walk out onto the street and make noise, it's not in my control, unfortunately. But we are only a 26-seater, so it's not like there's hordes of people walking out late at night making noise.
So just so I'm clear, you're suggesting, as per your email, that it's proposed hours 5 to 11, Monday, Tuesday,
Yes, that's the only alteration we would make now,
and
keep the current hours that we've
the
inherited.
current. So yeah, okay. So you wouldn't be open for lunch
No.
on Monday, Tuesday. It'd just be the Saturday and Sunday. Is
Yes.
that right? Yep. Okay, I see.
But we wouldn't. I don't think we'll be trading for lunch anytime soon.
Right. Okay. All right. So thank you. I'll open to questions from the committee. Do you have any questions, Councillor Alderman Barakis?
Thank you, Chair. I suppose just on the topic of, like you've got in your email about functions and
Yep.
that being a topic of noise. What sort of functions do you hold, just from the perspective of how much noise would they generate? Would that be likely
Look,
to
it'd be
generate?
something like a small wine dinner for 10 people, sort of thing. Yeah.
Not talking about stand-up pumping music. Yeah.
No, and we're not that kind of business. You know, we're registered as a restaurant, not a wine bar. So we did have that one-off event to get us kicked off, and regretfully made too much noise. So, but those sort of things won't be happening ever again in that premises. Yeah.
Councillor Dutta?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wanting to ask a question with regards to your consultation. Did you have any discussion or conversation with the residents nearby?
No, I haven't. No. In saying that, there are a few that live by that I know who come into Sunny quite often, and they've been excited for us to open there. They've been excited for us to have extended hours as well, if it's possible. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Just in relation to something you said, Mr. Breen, you said that most people walk or catch Ubers.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you would advertise quite locally? You know, like, I mean, are you trying to get the very local
Absolutely. Like, we consider
neighbourhood to come along? And
yeah, absolutely.
and
We consider ourselves a small neighbourhood restaurant. You know, we're there for the people, we're there for the community. That's a big part of what we are doing.
So how does that translate into advertising, or, you know, like, are you likely to advertise?
We are pretty low-key on advertising. We just use Instagram to promote ourselves. We've just been in Delicious Magazine, and Gourmet Traveller were in last night to write about us. So, yeah, we don't sort of do much advertising in that sense, but we do promote ourselves as a small neighbourhood restaurant.
Okay, yep. But it's also to a national kind of audience as well?
That's right, yeah.
Right, okay. If there are no further questions, thank you. If you'd like to take your seat again, please. Thank you very much. Councillor Harvey.
Through you, Chair, to the Director. So the current operating hours from Wednesday to Sunday, they've already got approval for that, haven't they?
Yeah, that's correct.
Even though the council proposed hours has been reduced Sunday by half an hour, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday by an hour and a half. I'm just looking at the email and the three.
I think if you go to page or section 6.7.11, and there's a table there.
493. Is that right?
Yeah. 493.
Oh, thanks.
So you'll see that table. There's the approved hours on the left-hand side, and then the proposed, and where the officers, what the officers are recommending. Now, you've heard from the applicant today, and what they've modified their request further to keep what they've already got approval for, opening at 5 p.m. Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, and Saturday at 12 p.m, likewise with Sunday. But now just simply apply for the same sort of hours as the Wednesday hours for Monday and Tuesday. So only the two additional trading days from 5 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. Now, it's fair to say that the officers have got some concerns around the 11:30 p.m. closing times and had recommended a 10 p.m. closing time. And however, we could really only fairly, if that's the modified position of the applicant as we heard today, then we could really only impose that 10 p.m. Limitation on the two new days, which would be the Monday and Tuesday.
Sorry, I'm just a bit confused. They've already got those hours, but the council would like to pull the hours back a little bit.
No, they have not got haven't got approval on the Monday and Tuesday to operate.
But they've still got approval for the Friday and Saturday.
They've got approval for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Mm-hmm. If you had a look down that left-hand column, under the approved hours, they have got 6.5 hours on Wednesday, 6.5 hours on Thursday, 7 on Friday, 12 on Saturday and 11 on Sunday. They've got approval for those. They want to retain those. Now, they're only seeking effectively 5 p.m. to 11:30 on Monday and Tuesday. However, to be consistent with the officers' concerns, we would argue that it should be 5 p.m. to 10 p.m.
And that's what the report recommends?
The report recommends 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. As you've heard from the applicant today, they have modified their ask and simply want to extend what they've got already approval for on Wednesday and Thursday to those same hours for Monday and Tuesday.
Okay, thanks. Alderman Barakis.
So just to go further on that, through you, Chair, what's proposed by council is Monday to Thursday from 12 till 10 p.m. They're proposing that they wind that back on the front end to 5 p.m. So it's like the actual number of hours that the place is proposed to be open is significantly less under the new proposal than what's currently in front of us. Noting obviously that it's the back end is not the more contentious part of it.
That's correct.
Is like I know it was said that this is typically in line with other restaurants' trading hours that are in residential zones, but is the size and nature of the restaurant considered as well? Given that this is quite a small boutique place, you could hardly compare it to, D'Angelo's or somewhere that's a pumping, hundreds table venue. Is the size and nature of it considered as part of that as well? Because
look, I think it clearly larger venues have the potential of creating greater disturbance in a location. So I think that's a fair comment, but notwithstanding that, we know that very small popular venues can also have an impact. So I think the officers have got a reasonable proposed balance, taking into account the concerns expressed here tonight.
Right, so we haven't got a motion as yet.
Well, I'll test the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harvey. Further discussion?
I
Alderman
might
Barakis?
test and I was waiting to move it as an amendment just so we can test it as an amendment without sabotaging the officer's recommendation. I'll move as an amendment the proposed hours from the applicant that was presented to us today, which I think everybody's got a copy of. I think, as I said, I think the fact that this is such a small boutique place, and from my understanding, apart from that opening night, there hasn't been any issues with noise. I think this is, we have to consider the nature of the venue itself. I don't think it's a big pumping, super busy restaurant that's going to generate a lot of noise, or outdoor in and out customers making noise. The parking issues, I'll note, once again, it's a very small venue, and at the end of the day, I think the parking issues largely are the responsibility of council in this precinct, which has been a very well documented issue. But on this, I think, especially considering under what's being proposed, the total number of hours is significantly less than what council has in front of us. So, as was said, this isn't being proposed to be trading until 11:30 on Monday nights, every single night, or 11 o'clock, sorry, not 11:30. Every week. This is just there to give the business the flexibility that if they're holding a function, they can continue to hold it without having to kick people out early. I don't think that's unreasonable. This isn't a regular time that's being proposed. It's just them giving themselves the ability and the flexibility to do so. And as was said, it's a quiet venue. It's not a big noisy nightclub or pub. So I think this is a reasonable request, and ultimately it's fewer hours than what's currently in front of us. So I'll test the floor and I'll move that as an amendment.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Coates?
Oh, look, I mean, only to reflect, I think clearly the applicant here has taken on board concerns that have been raised, so in that way it's a good outcome from the process. I think obviously casting your mind to the sort of venue that's being open, I mean, it's not necessarily a good experience for people visiting our city where they're told, look, you might be one of only 4 people left in the venue, but council's got a guillotine here, and I'd echo the comments. I think ultimately we're not about trying to pick a winner, we're about trying to find an appropriate compromise. There's no doubt that venue is allowed to be used for commercial activity. It is in a city, and it's just a question, I guess, of balancing those priorities. So I would echo the comments and support the proposed amendment.
Okay. Is there no further discussion? I just would like to make the point that potentially this might be open till 11 p.m. every night. I know Mr. Breen has suggested otherwise, but it is the disruption in a neighbourhood. So it's I think there's something more to consider here than just extending hours. It's a very. I've been to this venue before, as many of you may have as well, and it's you do sort of spill out onto the street. I've spoken to neighbours who. I mean, there was one representative who suggested that the Crescent can be loud across the road, although it's not a consistent report that I'm getting from neighbours there. So, there's I can see why there might be this request, but I also see that there is that impact from neighbours for neighbours as well. Is there any further discussion?
Could I just be clear about the amendment, Chair? So it's just leaving the existing hours of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday the same?
No. It's reducing the number of hours on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday.
Till 10 p.m?
So the proposed hours, as per the email that we got, Monday 5 p.m. to 11 p.m,
Yep.
Tuesday 5 p.m. to 11 p.m,
Yep.
Wednesday 5 p.m. to 11:30, Thursday 5 p.m. to 11:30, Friday 5 to 12, Saturday 12 to 12, Sunday 12 to 11:30.
All right, so the existing hours.
So essentially on Wednesday and Thursday, Alderman Briscoe, it's 1.5 hours later. Starting earlier, starting at 5 p.m, but it's closing at 11:30 as part of that application.
I'm just looking at the, I'm getting a bit confused here. 473.
It's in the, we received an
No,
email.
no, but 473, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Wednesday's got 5 p.m. to 11:30 already approved. Thursday's got 5 p.m. to 11:30 already approved. Friday is 5 p.m. to 12 a.m. approved.
Oh.
Saturday 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. Saturday 12 p.m. to 11 p.m. Really, what I'm pretty sure that amendment that you're suggesting is that you leave the existing hours from Wednesday to Sunday the same and add a 12.
5 to 11.
Monday and Tuesday. What are you suggesting?
5 to 11.
5 to 11. Yeah. So it's just an addition.
Yeah, that's correct. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Is everybody clear on that then?
Yeah, just clear. Thank you. And so the recommendation of staff is 10 o'clock instead of 11.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
So, sorry, Chair, can the director just walk me through the difference in the 1.5 hours? That's to provide better amenity for the neighbours, closing a little bit earlier?
That's correct.
Because the officers are not confident that there's enough amenity if the hours are later.
Well, clearly, you've heard the representative. There was an event. Now, you've heard the applicant as well saying that that was a one-off. Now, we weren't aware of that. When this report was written, we had evidence that it might be compromising the residential amenity of the immediate neighbourhood, because we had complaints. So that's on the basis on which we've made the recommendation that a 10 p.m. closure is one that we would be more comfortable with, noting the provisions of the planning scheme.
All right, so Alderman Barakis.
Apologies for dragging this on, but just a supplementary question off that one. Would that imply that if that complaint hadn't been made, given that if we accepted it was a one-off, if that complaint wasn't considered, that there may have been a different recommendation?
There could have been, given that there had approvals been in place for 11:30 finish on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and later at times at other days as well. So it could have been.
Okay, so I'll put the motion as moved by, the amendment. Oh,
So just one question, if I may, Chair.
Councillor Coates, all right. Just this last one.
Yeah, look, I'm ready from the table. I just want to make sure that I'm very clear as possible. But obviously at the moment, under the current operating hours and the current approvals, there was no approval for Monday, Tuesday. So putting aside the Monday, Tuesday, but on Wednesday and Thursday, there's currently an operating hour and approval up until 11:30 p.m.
That's correct.
So the proposed hours by the applicant is actually consistent with the current approval of Wednesday, Thursday up to 11:30 p.m.
That's correct.
Yes, it does add the Monday, Tuesday.
That's right.
But that would be consistent with what's happening for the rest of the week.
That's right.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so
Sorry, Chair, but there is there on those days where they wish to have extended hours, can you get permits for an extension? Is that a process we provide? An opportunity?
Sorry, permits.
Extension of hours for functions.
No, they'd need to apply. They'd need to apply for planning consent to vary.
That's what I'm saying. You can apply for extensions.
That's right.
Yeah, through planning consent. Yeah.
Chair, I wonder if Monday and Tuesday probably would get support for the extension of hours if the applicant has already asked 5 p.m. till 11:30. I think the applicant has for Monday and Tuesday. I wonder if that could be separate from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because I don't like taking away things that have already happened and already got approval for. It really is, the applicant is just asking for a Monday and a Tuesday hours now. because before he didn't have that.
Mr. Noy, perhaps you'd like to clarify.
Look, I'll try and explain. It's unfortunate that this has been a little bit of a moving feast. Clearly, the applicant has come here today and modified his proposal.
Yes.
Now, his applied application involved extensions on most of the days. Now, he's moved. What he's saying is he doesn't want to proceed with that proposal.
Yes.
What he wants to do is simply apply, in simple terms, apply for the Monday and Tuesday extensions. Because he doesn't, we as a council could, and if he wanted to keep his existing hours on the other days, we would not restrict those.
Yeah. So in other words, his application now is only to Monday and Tuesday, and we cannot relate that to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because he doesn't want to change that now.
That's correct.
So the amendment that Alderman Barakis is moving is just for the application to be Monday and Tuesday for the hours he suggested.
That's correct.
We can't change the hours of the others because he hasn't made an application for it. He's changed his application.
Well, he originally did, but clearly he's changed his mind in relation to that, and we'll respect that position here.
So essentially, is there a? This is in some ways, well, it's just being told to us, but it's are the residents aware of this?
Well, they wouldn't, but they will be. Those that have made representations will be advised by way of notifying of council's decision.
Just it's very it's not really the best way of doing this, I must say. Anyway, we've got this before us, and we have this suggestion, this amendment from Alderman Barakis to instead of closing at 10 o'clock on Mondays and on these other days, it's just 11 p.m. So. Is everybody
Starting at 5 p.m.
But 5 to 11. Yes. But essentially, I think the problem for the neighbours, Alderman Briscoe, is the closing time on potentially 7 days a week. Is what I read here.
Yeah, but we're not now considering that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put the amendment as moved by Alderman Barakis. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? No.
Who?
Show of hands. Those in favour?
Alderman Briscoe, Alderman Barakis and Councillor Coates.
Those against?
Councillor Harvey, Councillor Dutton and the Deputy Lord Mayor.
Okay, so
Now the motion's for the proposed hours by council.
that amendment is lost. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Yep.
Can I have a clarification now?
Sorry?
Can I have a clarification from the director? As the applicant has changed his application, doesn't wish to do any changes for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, have we got any jurisdiction to change it without an application?
Well, look, I think given that he's indicated his desire to retain those operating hours then for Monday through to Sunday, then I think it would be reasonable to accept that and limit any changes to the Monday and Tuesday, and it may well be that is 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. As opposed to 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. as requested by the applicant.
So can I have an amendment accordingly? Alderman Briscoe, do you want to move that?
The amendment was lost, the Alderman Barakis amendment, because we can't consider Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because so we can't consider it because it's not part of the application.
I'm suggesting that there might be another amendment from 5 to 10 p.m. for Monday and Tuesday.
Oh, right. I'm happy to move that. At least it will get some hours for Monday and Tuesday.
I think we're getting there.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I move that amendment. Yeah.
Hang on. That's
Thank
less
you.
than what's proposed now.
No, this is for Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, no, but the current motion is 12 till 10. Now you're saying 5 till 10.
I could,
I think we need clarification.
yeah, if I could help, I mean, I think it's the intent of the applicant not to operate at lunchtimes. Hence why he's accepting the 5 p.m. for the other Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So to be consistent with that, a 5 p.m. opening time would appear to be consistent with his initial.
So my amendment would be to allow Monday and Tuesday to open at 5 p.m. both days and finish at 10 p.m. both days. That's the amendment. We can't consider the other days of the week.
Sorry, how come we can't consider the other days of the week now? Because the council proposed hours changed those times slightly.
Because the applicant has indicated here today that he now does not want to amend those hours. Okay? He wants to keep the operating hours as originally approved. So all I'm simply proposing is to respect that intent and not to approve something that he no longer wants.
Okay.
So unless you're giving him something that he can act on, rather than having to reapply for the Monday and Tuesday.
I think that's a reasonable compromise.
Okay,
Councillor Coates, is there something that you wanted to say?
Look, just I guess reflect upon the fact that the proposal for the Monday, Tuesday was starting at 5 to 11, which is a 6-hour window. And obviously the council officers have flagged concerns with the 11 o'clock on a Monday, Tuesday night, so they've pulled it back to 10. I just wonder if, clearly the concern isn't so much activity happening at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, but I mean, if a restaurant's only going to be allowed to be open because of council rules till 10, I wonder if we're just not creating an issue here where we might be better off to give the council officers proposal on the Monday, Tuesday. And look, it may well be that they never open early, but it could be there's a public holiday on a Tuesday and they decide that day to open a bit earlier. But,
Saying that he wants that. Councillor Dutton.
Well, he's also not saying he wants 10 p.m.
Thank you, Chair. No, it's my understanding that the hours won't be changed from Wednesday to Sunday. That remains because of the withdrawal by the applicant. Hence, the consideration that the amended motion of Alderman Briscoe is from 5 to 10, and I would support that. I think that's quite reasonable and creates a consistency.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'll put that amendment. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? That's carried, and that's the substantive motion. So,
That's it.
thank you. All right, and that is a decision by committee. Now we move to. I suggest that we move, with the committee's blessing, that we move to 7.2.1 because we do have the applicant here for 71A Letitia Street. There's no deputations.
But motion, Chair.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. So 7.2.1 is 71A Letitia Street. I'll open the item for discussion. Alderman Brackus?
Very happy to move this one.
All right, thank you.
A fantastic thing, and I would hope that it's roundly accepted.
Thank you. Councillor Dutta?
Thank you, Chair. My concern here was in regards to clause E661 about parking. There's 55 spaces and only 22 is provided. There's a shortfall of 33. Now, having read the evidence provided by staff that in social housing you don't have the demand, I'm quite happy to support this. Thank you.
Alderman Briscoe?
Thank you, Chair. Look, I agree with Alderman Baracus. It's noted it's a partnership with the government, and the government gets criticised a lot for not providing social housing, and this is a perfect example of a partnership that's working and has provided social housing. So whilst there has been some objections by the three neighbours, I think the officers have answered them well, and I think it will fit in with the neighbourhood, and it is required in Hobart to have more social housing. So well done to the government and the private provider.
Thank you. Alderman Harvey. Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think if you're looking for a site in Hobart, worthy of multi-residential social housing, then this is probably a very good space. It's already sitting well below the Brooker Highway, so the stories aren't as noticeably high. So I think it is a very good location, well sited, close to the action of North Hobart. I'm not concerned by the shortage of parking. It is in an area that has access to other facilities short walk up the road. I will ask about the overshadowing of the neighbour though, if you could allay any fears there, that there's no overshadowing, just so we can represent the representors and allay any fears.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a shadow diagram shown. There is some, but it's not unreasonable in the context of the proposal and the location.
Can we just scroll through to that shadow diagram? Do you have a page number for that off the top of your head?
Attachments.
But I will continue that, yeah, this is much needed accommodation, and I'm very pleased to see it come to council, and subject to adequate answer with the shadow diagram, I'll be supporting it once I scroll far enough to
349.
349.
You have diagrams showing it's probably the Letitia Street, adjacent Letitia Street property that will be most affected by the proposal.
Mm-hmm.
But as you can see, after 12 p.m, they retain and on the worst day, the 21st of June, at 9 a.m, you can see some overshadowing. I would suspect that the domain itself is contributing to not an insignificant amount of that. And as the sun comes around noon, and probably by 11 actually, that rear space within that Letitia Street property would be receiving full sunlight, so not unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And the overshadowing, not the overshadowing, but the overlooking, which was brought up in representations. How's that going to be addressed? There's a conditions?
Yes, there are conditions. I think units 17 and 18 requiring some screening to be incorporated to limit that overlooking.
And the lack of private open space, is there common space, or how? Because, you know, like whilst there aren't I mean, the domain's across the road, but it's not incredibly well accessed from that position. And there aren't all that many.
Yeah, there is an overpass just down the road.
Yeah,
in fact,
that requires a very able-bodied people to get to it.
True. So there is some common land, and these are one and the areas that have reduced private open space, primarily the smaller units. So you would expect that the demand is not as high if there was, 3 or 4 bedroom places. So the valuation has concluded that it's acceptable in that regard.
Does it compromise much on apartment standards, Mr. Noy?
No, the officers were comfortable with the proposal so far as they are concerned.
And the parking is on the ground floor. How does that interface go? I know that there's talk of plantings, but what sort of streetscape interface, is there?
Yeah, we are requiring additional attention to landscaping to, I suppose, reduce that that impact. So we're reasonably comfortable that can be resolved with appropriate planning.
And is there any specific, Mr. Wilson, perhaps could you come to the table, please? Just so the clients. Thanks. Thank you. Take a seat.
Thank you.
Now, so the clients that you're looking at housing here, is it a specific cohort or?
No, they are, the agreement that we have with state government is priority applicants off of the social housing wait list. So we have a demand data that we seek when we put together proposals such as this, and the demand for 1 and 2 bedroom units in that location is significantly high. So we'll work with Department of Communities and Housing Connect with the 4,500 people on the current wait list and prioritise 1 and 2 bedroom allocations for this complex.
Okay, thank you. And accessibility, are there lifts as part of this? Or?
You'll see that there's a lift proposed for this. So we have a lot of the dwellings meeting LHA Silver livability standard or above. Lift access due to obviously the density of the site and the multi-storey of the site, and that's an investment that we're keen to put into to support our residents with accessibility issues.
Okay, all right.
Any on-site services proposed for the tenants?
Look, we as an organisation have a community wellbeing area of our business that work very close with our tenancy business as well, but bear in mind we also work extremely close with Housing Connect as well. This is a permanent tenancy complex. This is not transitional. This is not supported accommodation. But there's no doubt that of the 3,000 properties we manage across the state, there are time to time where they need additional supports, and we provide that as an organisation or as a part of the welfare arm of the Catholic Church. We leverage that as well.
And is there opportunity for gardening, for veggie patches, that sort of thing, for that sort of interaction outside?
There is some, you were asking before about some of the common ground, there is some areas there that are utilised as common facilities that we find that we work with a lot of residents around that discussions there about what they want with herb gardens, fruit gardens, those sort of things.
Yep. And one more, any opportunities for cycling enthusiasts? Is there a place to put bikes and that sort of thing?
We've got 12 spots for bikes on site, lockable areas for tenants as well in the basement of the car park facilities.
Okay. And e-vehicle charging in the basement as well in the car park? Is that not future-proofing it though, having...
Oh, look, it may be, but right at the moment that's not part of the proposal.
All right.
Yeah.
Alderman Barakis.
Thank you, Chair. Just two questions. So, just to clarify, and I'm familiar with the priority list, but we're not talking about expecting any group of people with particularly complex needs, unless that just happens. But we're not talking about a particular complex needs cohort, are we? We're
not. When you've got somebody that's in complex need, they're generally in sheltered transitional accommodation, working with support people to get into permanent residency. So I guess what I say to everybody is that we've got a responsibility to 29 residents on that site, and it's our responsibility to allocate appropriately that we've got 29 residents who get along in a complex of that nature. So when you talk about priority applicants, of the 4,500, there's over 50% that are in a priority applicant sense, and that's not necessarily because they need support services, it's simply because they need housing.
So the other question is, and we've been on the last one, for I think most people that are listening or are going to read about this application, should this be approved, not to preempt the council or the committee, but when do you think this could be up and running and going?
It's an extremely good question. It should be up and running. It's a project that we were due to have completed by 30 June next year. That's not going to be possible. Our aim is absolutely to see this complex finished by December next year to be allocated as quickly as we can.
All right, thank you. If there are no further questions, thank you very much. You can take your seats again. We have a motion from Alderman Barakis. I'll put that. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Items carried unanimously. Yeah. We'll go back to 7.1.1, which is 3 Argyle Street, Salamanca Place. So we're considering this under the Sullivan's Cove planning scheme. And so this is the water supply facilities. Alderman Barakis.
Happy to move that, Chair.
Thank you. Discussion?
Chair, excuse me, I live next door to the 71A, and I was hoping to be able to ask a few questions or make a couple of comments. Is that...
I'm sorry, it was a matter of speaking to Mr Banks and organising to make a deputation. I hadn't realised that you were going to...
I didn't understand what the procedure was. I just thought if I turned up, it was an open meeting and there are microphones, and
No, I'm afraid not. So I'm sorry that we haven't. I didn't realise that you were in the audience, and we've now considered.
Well, for what it's worth, I thought the conditions needed to be expanded and made a bit more prescriptive.
Perhaps
because I've made representations and.
Perhaps, yeah. So this will go to full council. So you can raise those with individual elected members before the meeting, or send something to Mr Banks. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Thank you. We'll continue. So the water bubblers, is there any discussion? My only question is around the heritage. So is there? So that's been approved from a heritage perspective, and access issues. Has that been considered as well?
Both of those matters have been considered, Chair. I think there is recognised some might need to be moved to accommodate improved access needs, so we've incorporated a condition that allows us a little bit of flexibility.
So,
thank you. All right.
Lord Mayor, I think this is a very good application from the council. There's an opportunity here to reduce the number of water bottles used across the waterfront, or people purchasing water and drinking the local tap water. So the campaign around drink the local water, I think, is really important, because I think a lot of people don't trust water in many places, and there's an opportunity to build a bit of a brand on our water here, that we can drink the water in Hobart, as we do. But I still see people carrying cartons of water out of the supermarket on a regular basis, and I'm wondering whether or not they don't understand how good quality the water is in Hobart. So I'm supportive of this, and we also raised this, I think it was last year sometime, so this is something we've said we were going to do, so I'm really pleased to see it got to us.
Thank you. Further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried unanimously. We'll go back to consideration under the interim planning scheme, 66 Hampton Road, Battery Point signage. It's a recommendation for refusal. Can I have somebody
I'm happy to move that to start the conversation.
I think Councillor Dudder had got to that first. Discussion?
I think it's, Chair, it almost seems like it's trivial bureaucracy, because the comments in the officer's report indicates that it's freestanding, not affixed to sand, has acceptable graphic design with minimal modern logos, and is not illuminated. To me, it seems extraordinary that we're refusing something like this. I mean, I will foreshadow a motion for approval with conditions.
Thank you. Further discussion? Alderman Barakis.
I've got, just like Councillor Harvey gazumped Councillor Dudder, I think Alderman Briscoe's gazumped me. Look, just reading through the report and noting it's got not that I saw representations.
No, there weren't any.
In an area where people are, and good luck, and good on them, but people are keen on preserving important heritage and make representations. There are none here. And just like, as Alderman Briscoe said, there's some interesting things in the report, like where it says 3 signs on an individual property is highly irregular and unnecessary, and it says that the signage proposal is unsophisticated. Like, it makes some very strangely qualitative reflections. At the end of the day, looking at it, and with what Alderman Briscoe noted, I can't foresee this in any way being of detriment to the heritage of the site. It's a clear signage, and it's clearly separate from what is a undisturbed heritage building, and rightfully a heritage building. Just looking at it, I just don't see this in any way being in any way detrimental to the significance of this building. It's very, very simple. It's very, very what's the word, restrained in its design, and if anyone moves on, it doesn't leave any permanent scar on the building in any way. I don't see allowing this to remain as it is to the detriment of the precinct or to the detriment of this site. So I'd be supporting Alderman Briscoe's motion.
Thank you. All right. If there's no further discussion.
Well, there is a
Councillor
bit.
Harvey.
It's just it doesn't comply with the heritage code for the area. Is that correct, through you to the Director?
No?
That's the qualified advice, Chair.
The qualified advice, not opinion of someone who...
Qualified advice.
Uh-huh. So, therefore, there would be a better solution that fits the heritage, I imagine, which they should have asked about in the first place.
Yeah, look, I think it's certainly the view of the officers that this is a very important streetscape, and very important, street
in Australia.
In Australia, and to clutter it with, signs that are clearly, in the officer's view, an unnecessary duplication. And while it's not attached to the building, it is in front of the building, and does interrupt, the view of the building. I accept that it's a small interruption, but even a small interruption to the best-looking building can be very jarring. And I think that that's the view of the officers in this case.
So if the sign was put away from the building, further to the left in front of the tree, and if is the A-frame in question as well, the sandwich board?
Well, the sandwich board is placed there, but it can be placed on the road. And I think the purpose of any signage is to identify the building, the commercial activity that's going on in the building, and I think it's the view of the officers that those sandwich boards are used within the street very effectively to document and notify the presence of the business.
So the sandwich board could go on the street, and the other board to the left on the building could potentially go further down the street away from the building.
Well, look, I think the officers' view is that that freestanding sign is unnecessary when you've already got a projecting sign and a sandwich board.
Okay, so we have this in front of us, and if that is clear for you now, Councillor Harvey, I'll...
so someone's moved it?
Yes, it's Councillor Harvey,
I've moved the officer's recommendation.
Or Councillor Dutta moved it for, for refusal. Yep. Okay, I'll put that. Those in favour? Aye. Those against?
No.
Show of hands. Those in favour?
Councillor Harvey, Councillor Dutta, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Those against?
Alderman Briscoe, Alderman Braggs and Councillor Coates.
Okay, that's lost. Alderman Briscoe, you had a foreshadowed motion for approval.
That it gets approved. Look, I think the Director did say, in the officer's opinion, it's jarring. Now, I pride myself on aesthetics. I can't see how that's jarring. It's a subjective view, I know. I think it's neat. It fits in with a certain symmetry. It's not a blatant vote one Jeff Briscoe sign, which is a few of them about. A few more today. It's a very subdued, very professional sign. I'd say, for goodness sake, it's been there. There's been no complaints. There's been no representations, and I think we'd look a bit silly if we said we can't allow a simple sign like that. And I agree. I don't want to look silly about this.
Alderman Briscoe.
I said I don't like to look silly. I didn't say the council.
Yeah, it was, well, you're suggesting that
no, I
others...
said I. I didn't say the council.
just finish you saying that it would be a silly decision.
It would, in my view, would be a silly decision if we didn't.
Heritage decision.
Well, okay, so I'll put the recommendation for approval. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? No. Show of hands. Those in favour?
Well-
Marcus, Councillor Coates,
Those against?
Councillor Harvey, Councillor Dutton, and Deputy Lord Mayor.
Okay, so that will go to council.
Or does it rest with the director?
No, it goes to council. It doesn't. Its expiry is the 2nd of November, so it will go to full council next week.
There's no recommendation.
7.2.3, which is 331 Churchill Avenue, and new dwelling.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Discussion? No discussion. I'll put that. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. 7.2.5 is 18 Oberon Court, Dunoon, change of use to visitor accommodation.
Move the officer's recommendation.
You'll move it for recommendation for approval. Discussion? Thank you, Councillor Coates.
Sorry, I'm just scrolling through here. How many?
Two.
Two. And the decision rests with us?
Council. It's been called in.
Oh. You'd better stop, wouldn't you?
Is there any discussion or not? I might make a comment if there isn't. I'll just...
Well, discussion. I moved it because I believe the council officers have done their job properly and investigated and put together a well-considered recommendation.
Thank you.
Advice one might say.
Further discussion?
I have reservations with this one here, and as stated before, even though we have qualified advice, we can differ, and on this matter, I would differ from that qualified advice based on a few of the clauses already mentioned in there, and I think clause 31A E1 and also clause 31E P1 does not satisfy, according to my interpretation of this.
So it's a recommendation for refusal.
Refusal as a foreshadowed.
Okay. I'm just reading from the one of the representations. It was well known to most of us next door and opposite these units were specifically built in mind for uni visitor accommodation. No one builds quite small houses with a bathroom to accommodate each bedroom unless for the reasons stated above. But we were told by our council we will do something about that if they do, a bit late after completion. So there were concerns raised by the representor. Things like what's she saying, that the rubbish is continuing overflowing and ends up blowing into my yard. So, there are impacts which we see time and time again. Quite often we don't hear about them, but it's stated in the representation.
Chair, can I make a comment about that?
So so I'll just finish my, before you, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry, I thought you'd finished.
So I think this is a prime example of where there is impact on residential amenities. So I find it difficult to support this application. Alderman Briscoe.
Thank you, Chair. Look, short stay operators do not want gardens which are not maintained. They don't want rubbish floating around. In fact, they're probably it's more like other users of such properties might allow gardens not to be maintained or garbage not collected. So it would affect on reviews of a short stay accommodation had if the gardens weren't maintained or garbage was. No, I think that's a fear which I think could be put in as a minor fear and wouldn't base a lot on reality. We haven't got any evidence that that is the case. We've got fears expressed. Now, all I can say that I've just read through the representations. One representative is concerned the garden would not be maintained. Well, clearly from short stay operators that I know, they maintain their garden to a higher standard often than local residents. One representative, there's an issue with garbage not being adequately managed. Again, what I said earlier, it reflects on that short stay operator if the garbage is not maintained. So both those to me are minor concerns. They may be a fear which is not, in my judgment, are sufficient to refuse such an application. Now, if we didn't have an officer's recommendation for approval and we had that amendment through the Tasmanian Planning Authority, we wouldn't even be considering this. But the officers have recommended approval. We haven't got that amendment as yet. If it does get approved through the... So I think rather than going through the exercise, we seem to go every council meeting and every planning meeting, we seem to have these things. Because they've been called in, they haven't had outrageously number of objectors. No objector has contacted me to express any concerns. It's not as if we've got evidence in front of us that such as the one down at Sandy Bay, the party house, quite a few weeks ago now. So in this case, this is the normal, as a right almost, application that shouldn't even be here. It should be considered by the officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor
Chair,
Harvey.
Yeah, look, unfortunately, we don't have the authority to refuse this. It's really bad news. I don't like approving these. I don't like losing houses to the rental accommodation numbers in Hobart, but unfortunately we don't have the power here to refuse this. So I'll be supporting it reluctantly, and I do hope that the Tas Planning Commission can get on with the job of finalising the amendments to the planning scheme that will ban whole home conversions in residential areas of Hobart. We can't wait much longer for this. We're losing too many homes. So I'm very hopeful that they're listening to what we're saying and that they get on with it and process the planning scheme amendment to prevent the loss of further whole home accommodation, rental accommodation in Hobart.
Additional information, Alderman Barakis?
Well, no. Well, what I was going to say was, I think Councillor Harvey hit the nail on the head there. We don't have power to refuse this. I know we keep hearing that we have discretion in this matter, but our discretion comes with limits, and we have to apply those discretions within the scope of what we have in front of us. And we've got, unlike the party house on Sandy Bay Road, and unlike the other item, I can't remember the street that had the parking problem that I think everybody, which everybody agreed with, there was clear evidence. We've got nothing to suggest that we have nothing to suggest what we have in front of us doesn't meet the planning scheme criteria, the rules of the day that we currently have in front of us, not the rules as we would like them. And whilst the concerns around trimming of the garden and garbage collection I'm sure the residents are concerned about, they're not planning considerations in the first place. And the noise is something that we've had, as Alderman Briscoe said, there are concerns about speculation that it will be more noisy. We have nothing to suggest that that will be the case. The nature of this house doesn't lead itself to that likelihood, unlike that party house on Sandy Bay Road. And if we reject this, the only outcome will be that in 3, 4, 5, 6 months' time, we will be in the closed part of this council meeting, or whoever's still around in 3, 4, 5, 6 months' time, talking about how we have to overturn this decision because we can't find a single expert planner in the state of Tasmania willing to represent this on its merits. So our only option here is to approve this.
Yes, and I think there was the Rupara Avenue as well, which was another short street in West Hobart, very similar to Cane Street, but I don't think that was supported by for refusal. But that was another one which we did have a number of representations. I might remind elected members, considering that we had not only concerns raised, but quite a number of us went to visit that site and to see what the concerns were. But we have this motion before us, and I'll put the motion as moved by Councillor Coates for approval. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? No. Show of hands, please. Those in favour? And those against? Motion is carried. We now move to 7.2.6, which is for Thelma Drive, West Hobart.
Happy to share the load and move for approval.
Thank you.
Note that there's been no representations for this application, so I won't go through all the other arguments.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Harvey?
So this is another one. Tonight I think we've got 3 short stay accommodation proposals, 3 more houses lost to the rental stock, from the rental stock in Hobart. And every month, I think the figure is we lose 14 rental or 14 homes to the short stay accommodation industry. That's what I think the last figure was that we saw. 14 homes per month lost to short stay accommodation. So it really is urgent that the Tas Planning Commission get on with doing their job of processing the planning amendment to prevent whole home short stay accommodation in residential areas of Hobart.
Just one comment, Alderman Harvey has triggered me there. It could be that the current occupant is the owner and has decided to move on and has a choice of whether to turn it into short stay accommodation or put it in the rental.
Speculation?
Well, we're all in speculation mode today. So,
we just hear from one person. Continue, Alderman Briscoe, please.
Thank you, Chair. So we don't know the history of this house. It looks like a brand new house to me, or very close to a brand new house. It looks like the applicant is an occupant as well. So it could be that he or she, the family has built a new house somewhere else. We don't know. So we can't say this one's lost to the rental. It may never have got to the rental. So I just want to clarify the language that Alderman Harvey used.
Allowed to go to rental in the future.
Further discussion.
Short stay.
Councillor Dutta?
I have reservations with this. I looked at parking and I have no problems. They have supplied more parking than required. They've supplied more. But when I look at clause 3(1)(e)(p)(1), again, as statements have been made, we have qualified evidence from staff and we go against it. Here, there is a qualified evidence, but evidence is not provided to me with regards to the scale or the noise. Assumptions and assertions have been made. And on similar basis, on the contrary, I can do the same using my discernment. You know, if others can do the same, here I'm doing the same. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? No. Show of hands. Those in favour?
Alderman Briscoe, Councillor Harvey, Alderman Glass and Councillor Coates.
Those against?
Councillor Dutton and Deputy Lord Mayor.
The motion is carried. We'll now move to 126 Davey Place. Change of use. Alderman Barakis.
Continue to spread the load, Chair. I'll move this one. I think debate on this can just be taken as read for the previous 2 items.
All right. Discussion. So, is this what size? Like it's a
Small 2-bedroom.
2-bedroom.
Which I think had previous approval, but in 2015, but not acted upon. Chair,
So they've had to reapply.
They've had to reapply.
Okay. Could it be used for a residence?
Oh yes.
Yep.
And probably was originally constructed for such purposes.
It's interesting that there's multi-residential dwellings right along that street, isn't there?
Mm.
And
Okay.
can I just note the
Briscoe.
record that there's no representations?
All right. Any further discussion? If
I
not,
just have a question
yeah,
to you,
Councillor Dutton.
Chair. If my memory serves me right, I read that in one particular suburb, the whole suburb was considered as to how many visitor accommodations are there. In another application, it was 200 meters away, and in the third, I think, there was a mention of 200 meters away. It just gives it a different perspective then.
Yeah, I take that point. I did note that as well, so.
Yeah.
So,
So what's the
suggesting-
rationale and reason behind that and not being consistent?
Mr. Noy?
Look, I'd have to take that one on notice, Chair.
Because that makes it very difficult for me then to make the judgment, see.
Yeah, I understand.
Councillor Coates?
Look, just for the purpose of discussion, if you went by a suburb and you had an application for Ridgeway, you'd have 50 houses. If you looked at Sandy Bay, you'd have 10,000 houses. I mean, I think the 200 metres is a far more better and consistent measurement because the reality is in the Hobart municipality, suburbs are not one and the same and they're definitely not equal. We've got some very, very large ones and some very, very small ones.
Thanks for that observation.
The
Councillor
question will
Dutton?
be given to me later.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We can't ask questions anymore.
Alderman Briscoe?
Yes, just another question, and I know from knowledge as myself, but I think I've asked this question before. Do we ever do audits whether these permits are ever used?
Mr. Noy?
No, we don't.
So possibly, as I know in a few examples where there are out to rental accommodation and they do have permits, and the permits would last for 2 years, wouldn't it?
Yes, and they can be extended up to 6 years.
So even we have no knowledge of whether the house that's got a permit is actually being used for short stay or whether it's being rental. Now, I know you might smile and sneer a little bit there.
I'm sorry, can you take that back, please?
Yes, you weren't
Alderman
smiling.
Briscoe? No,
I take it back.
I was thinking of something else that I was going to add to that. So, do you mind?
I just said you're not smiling. Sorry, I'll take it back.
You just said smear, actually.
You're like
So
a
could
two-year-old.
you
Say smile, so I take it back. I take it back. Just look, I made a comment and you went and smiled and looked up as if you were rolling your eyes or something. But anyway, if you weren't, you're thinking something else, I take it back.
I'll tell you in a moment.
Good, thank you. So we have no mechanism of actually doing audits.
We do, Chair. There is a government list that comes out on every 3 months of properties, but it's matching those.
So you'd match, say this address with it being operated.
That's right.
We don't do that?
No, I mean it requires officers' time, and we don't have a lot of that.
Oh, okay. No, I understand that's a resource issue,
Yeah.
but it seems to me that statistics are mentioned that such and such get turned into short-term accommodation, when in fact it may not be. It might be just, as we all predicted, that has been predicted by a number of people, that because of that pending amendment, if it gets through, is that it is a bit of a golden handshake if an owner can sell a house or property with a permit, and they may not be using the permit. So I'd like to know that information, but maybe if I'm still about in the new council, we make sure we allocate some resources to be able to get some figures. Thank you.
Yeah, it would be a nice thing to be able to allocate, wouldn't it? And I suppose just in answer to your question as to why I was smiling, I was thinking about over the weekend, Alderman Briscoe, I was door knocking during this campaign, and the first place that I went to in Mount Stewart was this amazing 4-bedroom family home. Went and greeted the person who was coming out of the door, and they said, "Oh, we're from Sydney, this is an Airbnb." So, this is visitor accommodation in our suburbs, which everybody is faced with. So, and there are not enough houses to go around, as we know. But that's what I was thinking of.
Oh,
so
good. Thank you for that explanation. I
I
appreciate
thought
that.
you'd like that clarification. You had
A
that
woman
same
who was here for a
experience.
hockey tournament, staying in Airbnb, and she wasn't aware that we'd lost 10% of our
rental properties to short stay. It was a very interesting conversation.
Okay, so back to the item at hand, 126. So we have the motion before us. I'll put that. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? No. Show of hands. Those in favour?
Briscoe, councillor Harvey, Alderman Brackus, councillor Coates.
Those against? Thank you. The motion is carried. 7.2.8, we're in a different suburb and it's change of use to visitor accommodation at 20 Bailey Street. Alderman Brackus, you'd like to move that?
Move it and take all my previous comments as read on this one.
Thank you. We're getting to that point, aren't we? Okay, so there was one representation in relation to this. Further discussion?
Yes, as we're all doing anecdotal stories, I went to knock on the door where a person usually gives me a sign, a lovely spot on Churchill Avenue, lovely site, and it's been turned to Airbnb in the last 4 years. So I do share that interest. Yeah.
We all had one. Yeah.
I couldn't locate the owner.
Oh dear.
Privacy issues.
All right. So, Mr. Noy, I have a question and it relates to the question previously. The glebe seems to have a large number of short stay visitor accommodations. Do we have an idea of how many there are, and do we get to a saturation point of it being just accepted as what we have?
Yes, so 2.6%. So council statistics indicate that of the 268 resident dwellings in the glebe, 7 have been granted a permit for visitor accommodation. This represents just 2.6% of the total number of dwellings in the suburb. Chair.
That's interesting. Okay, well.
So what, through you, Chair, in reality, how many houses is that, or how many dwellings is that?
268.
In the glebe?
Yeah.
Out of, sorry, the total number of houses?
7.
7?
Yes.
Only 7.
So it's very low, isn't it?
It is.
All right. So the motions come from Alderman Brackus. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll put that. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? No. Show of hands. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. We go to reports now. 8.1 is City Planning Advertising Report. Have somebody move that, please?
Move.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Any points of interest, Ms Abbey?
Thank you, Chair. I'll just mention 31 Swanston Street, which is an application for 6 additional dwellings on a site where there's already 1 dwelling. This has received some interest from elected members. The application will go to committee, or it's expected to go to committee at least.
Okay. Any other ones of note?
That was the main one that I identified that elected members might be interested in.
Yeah.
What was that address again?
31 Swanston, sorry.
And is that the park? No.
Swanston.
Swanston Street.
Swanston, not Swan. Okay.
All right, so who moved that? Councillor Harvey. All right, I'll put that. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against, items carried. 8.2 is the delegated decision report. Councillor Dutta. Any discussion? No discussion?
Just could I, through you, Chair,
Sure.
there are a few change of use to visitor accommodation that's been delegated. Can you remind us how they are considered and the others are not? Why are we considering some and not all of them? I thought
Well, it depends on whether they satisfy the delegation of officers or not.
why aren't they being called in with the rest that have been called in?
Well, there are limited discretions. It might be around car parking, I think, where they've provided surplus car parking, for example. And
So
Miss Abbey might be able to explain it a little bit better.
So
Sophie?
Through you, Chair, the applications that are called in are those that trigger the amenity assessment. So if they're beyond a certain size or part of a strata scheme. So if those two acceptable solutions are met or not applicable, then the applications aren't called in. So if the only discretions relate to parking, for example, then that application can be determined at officer level. The other circumstance where officers would determine the application is if we require an extension of time and the applicant refuses to provide one, then we would determine that application at officer level to make sure that the application doesn't expire.
But the elected member who's calling this in has set up some conditions of criteria when she or he calls me.
That's correct.
So there was 7 approved by the officers, was it? Am I counting correctly?
Take that as read, yes.
Oh, right, you're right, okay, if I counted correctly, thank you. Yep, thank you.
So I'll put that. Those in favour? Those against? Items carried. Item when... Oh, hold on, where's... Oh, we haven't got any questions without notice. I'm thinking, where is it? Oh. Item 9. Yes, you let off the hook for a few weeks.
Close the open
Alderman Brackus, thank you. So moved. I'll put that. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Items carried. And thank